Harus go over there, isn't it? No. If you catch it, if it gets blown away with the wind, run after it. I think it'll be alright. Right.
cool.
I'm going to start here with this bike. There's a bike up here. Really cool. Craig's name is. He's brought it in. Fully custom. This is a 2-stroke AX 500. And it's got a built-in fax machine in this bike. Just in case you can get a hold of it. There's also Freeview TV on the front here. So you can't see it just now, but it's parked over there, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's parked over, just opposite Fire Brigade. Is it over there? Yeah. If you head over that way, you can see it. I'm sure he'll show you. But there's a little screen in here, and it's got Freeview telly. Down the left side here, if you want to look at it, there's a wee black panel, and that's a fax machine. Fair play. Fair play. Fully custom. This is not chrome either, this is alloy. A lot of hours spent polishing, so that's complete, all alloy. So I asked them if it was chrome, and it's definitely not. How long did that take you to polish like that?
3 months of polishing.
3 back-to-back days.
Aye.
3 months back-to-back days polishing alloy. Do that. I mean, fair play for you. And you fairly quick, is it? Fairly quick.
Very fast.
You just got a firm nod of it. Oh. So if you want to have a look at that and speak to Craig, I'm sure he'll show you the preview, the fax machine. It's just down the little side there. Really, really cool. Moving on to the truck stand, what's your name, bud?
Yeah.
So somebody sends you a fax and gets itself in there?
Well, the year that I fitted it, the UK stopped all fax service, so you can't have a fax number anymore. But it does, if I send a text message to it, it prints it out.
I've always been a man for like American like muscle sort of cars. That's the end of the right side of the set there. That's the kind of object there. There's going to be another window. And then the focus are going to be a nice
Mm-hmm.